The sun was barely rising when Maya opened her eyes in the small, cramped room behind the big house. The walls were old and cracked, and cold air came through the gaps. She had been sleeping on a thin mattress on the floor for 3 years now. This was her life, and she couldn't remember the last time she felt truly happy. Maya was 22 years old, but she felt much older. Her hands were rough from working all day, every day. Her clothes were old and torn, passed down from the family she worked for. She had learned not to complain about anything, because complaining only made things worse. The Wilson family owned this house and the land around it. They had taken Maya in when she was just 19. Back then, she had nowhere to go. She had grown up in different foster homes, moving from place to place. When she turned 18, she was on her own with no family, no money, and no place to live. The Wilsons had seemed kind at first. Mrs. Wilson had smiled and told Maya she could stay with them. She said Maya could help with housework and farm duties, and they would give her food and a place to sleep. It sounded fair to Maya, who was just grateful to have somewhere to go. But things changed quickly. What started as helping with dishes and cleaning became working from sunrise to sunset. Maya had to wake up at 5 in the morning to milk the cows, feed the chickens, and clean the barn. Then she would go inside to cook breakfast for the Wilson family. After breakfast, there was laundry to wash by hand, floors to scrub, and gardens to tend. The Wilson family had 3 children who never helped with any work. They would sit and watch television while Maya cleaned around them. Sometimes, they would drop food on the floor just to watch her clean it up. Mrs. Wilson was not the kind woman Maya had first met. She would shout at Maya for the smallest mistakes. If the eggs were not cooked exactly right, or if Maya was too slow with her work, Mrs. Wilson would get angry. She would say terrible things about Maya, calling her worthless and ungrateful. Mr. Wilson was even worse. He would watch Maya work and find reasons to be unhappy. He said Maya ate too much food, even though she was given only small portions of leftovers. He complained that Maya cost them too much money, even though she never asked for anything. The worst part was that Maya could not leave. At night, they would lock her in her small room. They said it was for her own safety, but Maya knew better. They were afraid she would run away. Sometimes when she tried to go to town with them, Mr. Wilson would put a chain around her ankle. He told people she had mental problems and might wander off. Maya had tried to ask for help before. Once, when they were at the store, she whispered to a cashier that she needed help. But the cashier just looked confused and didn't understand. Another time, she tried to call a phone number she had seen on a poster about getting help. But the Wilsons found out and took away any chance she had to use a phone. The people who lived nearby knew something was wrong, but nobody wanted to get involved. They would see Maya working outside in all kinds of weather, wearing the same old clothes. They saw how thin she was and how scared she looked when the Wilsons were around. But they would just look away and pretend not to notice. Maya's room was cold in winter and hot in summer. She had one small window that she could look out of, but it had bars on it. At night, she would lie on her mattress and remember better. Times, she would think about when she was a little girl, before her parents died. She remembered feeling safe and loved. Sometimes Maya would dream about going to school. She had always been smart, but she never got to finish her education. The Wilsons said school was a waste of time for someone like her. They said she should be grateful to have work and a place to stay. But Maya dreamed of reading books and learning new things. The hardest part was losing hope. 3 years felt like a lifetime. Maya started to believe that maybe the Wilsons were right. Maybe she was worthless. Maybe this was all she deserved in life. Some days she felt so tired and sad that she didn't want to get up at all. But deep inside, Maya still had a small flame of hope. She would remember her mother's voice telling her she was special and loved. She would remember dreams she once had of becoming a teacher or a nurse. These memories kept her going when everything else felt impossible. Maya didn't know that her life was about to change. She didn't know that someone was watching and caring about what happened to her. She couldn't imagine that there were still good people in the world who would fight for her freedom. All she knew was that she had to survive another day, hoping that somehow things might get better. Every morning, Maya would whisper a small prayer, asking for strength to make it through the day. She didn't know it yet, but those prayers were about to be answered in a way she'd never expected. Chat Controls Sonnet 4. Dr. Linda Chen had been helping people her whole life. For 30 years, she worked with children and families who needed support. She had seen many difficult situations and learned to notice when something wasn't right. Now that she was retired, she spent her time volunteering in the community and helping at the local farmers market every Saturday. Linda loved the farmers market. It was a happy place where neighbors met, families bought fresh food, and everyone enjoyed the sunshine. She helped elderly people carry their bags and talked with young mothers about their children, made her feel useful and connected to her community. On a warm Saturday morning in spring, Linda was arranging flowers at her volunteer booth when she noticed something unusual. A young woman was standing near the vegetable stand, but she wasn't shopping like everyone else. She stood very still, looking down at the ground. Her clothes were old and dirty, and she seemed afraid to touch anything. Linda watched the young woman more carefully. In her years of social work, she had learned that body language could tell a story. This girl kept her arms crossed tight against her body. She jumped when people walked too close to her. When someone accidentally bumped into her, she said sorry. Many times, even though it wasn't her fault. The girl was with an older couple, who seemed to be her guardians. The woman was loud and demanding, pointing at different vendors and telling the girl what to carry. The man watched the girl closely, like he was worried she might run away. Linda noticed he stayed very close to her, never letting her wander even a few steps. What really caught Linda's attention was how thin the young woman looked. Her face was pale, and her clothes hung loose on her small frame. Linda had worked with many families, struggling with poverty, but this felt different. The girl looked scared, not just poor. Linda decided to walk closer to get a better look. She pretended to be interested in buying some tomatoes from the same vendor. As she got nearer, she could hear the conversation between the three people. The older woman was complaining loudly. "Maya, you're moving too slow. We don't have all day. Pick up those bags and stop acting lazy." Her voice was harsh and mean. Linda watched as Maya quickly grabbed several heavy bags, struggling with the weight but not saying a word. The man spoke next. "Remember what we told you about talking to strangers? Keep your mouth shut and stay close to us." His voice was threatening, and Maya nodded quickly, looking even more frightened. Linda's heart began to beat faster. In all her years of work, she had learned to trust her instincts. Something was very wrong with this situation. Maya wasn't just a family member helping with shopping. She was being controlled and intimidated. Linda bought some tomatoes and continued to observe from a distance. She watched as Maya carried all the heavy bags while the couple carried nothing. When Maya stumbled slightly under the weight, the woman scolded her again. Maya apologized repeatedly, even though the bags were clearly too heavy for one person to carry. As they walked through the market, Linda noticed other things. Maya never spoke unless spoken to. She never looked at any of the items for sale with interest or curiosity like other young people would. She kept her eyes down and focused only on following instructions. The most troubling moment came when a friendly vendor offered Maya a free sample of apple cider. It was something the vendor did for everyone, just being kind. But Maya looked terrified and glanced quickly at the older couple. The woman immediately stepped forward and said, "She doesn't need anything. Your own business." Maya looked like she wanted to try the cider, but she stepped back and said nothing. Linda could see disappointment and sadness in her eyes. It was such a small thing, but it told Linda everything she needed to know. Linda followed them at a safe distance as they finished their shopping. She watched them get into an old truck, with Maya climbing into the back like she wasn't allowed to sit with the adults. As they drove away, Linda memorized the license plate number that night. Linda couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. She had encountered many difficult family situations in her career, but this felt like something more serious. Maya's behavior, her appearance, and the way she was treated all pointed to a troubling situation. Linda decided to do some research. She used her connections from her social work days to learn more about the family. What she discovered made her even more concerned. The Wilson family had been receiving government support money for taking care of Maya, but Neighbors reported seeing her working outside in all kinds of weather while the family stayed inside. Linda learned that Maya had been with the Wilsons for 3 years. There were no records of her attending school or receiving any training. There were no reports of her ever being seen without the family present. It was as if Maya had disappeared. From normal society, Linda knew she had to do something, but she also knew she had to be careful. She called the authorities without solid proof. Maya might face punishment from the Wilsons. If she tried to approach Maya directly, she might scare her or put her in more danger. Linda began making a plan. She would return to the farmer's market every week and observe more. She would document what she saw and gather evidence. She would use her experience and connections to find the best way to help Maya safely. Most importantly, Linda would not give up. She had spent her life helping people who couldn't help themselves, and she wasn't going to stop now. Maya needed someone to see her, to care about her, and to fight for her freedom. Linda didn't know Maya's full story yet, but she was determined to help write a better ending. Chat Control Sonnet 4. Linda spent the next 3 weeks carefully planning her approach. She knew that one wrong move could make things much worse for Maya. Through her research and connections, she had learned that the Wilson family was receiving monthly payments from the state for Maya's care. They were supposed to be helping her transition to independent living, but instead they were using her as free labor. Linda also discovered something important about Mr. Wilson. He was greedy and always looking for ways to make money. He had a history of failed business deals and was always complaining about not having enough cash. This gave Linda an idea for how she might be able to help Maya. On a Thursday morning, Linda drove to the Wilson property. Her heart was beating fast as she walked up to the front door. She had practiced what she would say many times, but she was still nervous. Maya's freedom depended on her being convincing. Mrs. Wilson answered the door with a suspicious look on her face. She clearly wasn't used to visitors, especially well-dressed ones like Linda. "What do you want?" she asked rudely, not even inviting Linda inside. Linda smiled politely. "Good morning. I'm Linda Chen. I own a small farm about 20 miles from here, and I'm looking for help with my property. I heard you might have someone who does farm work." Mrs. Wilson's attitude changed immediately when she heard this might be about money. "Oh, you mean Maya? Yes, she works for us. But she's very valuable to our operation. We couldn't just let her go." Linda nodded as if she understood perfectly. "I completely understand. That's why I'm prepared to make it worth your while. Someone full-time to help with my animals and garden work. I'm getting older and can't do all the physical work myself anymore." Mr. Wilson appeared behind his wife, clearly interested in the conversation. "How much are you talking about?" he asked directly, not bothering with polite conversation. Linda had prepared for this question. She knew she had to offer enough money to tempt them, but not so much that they became suspicious. "I was thinking about paying you $5,000 to transfer her work contract to me. Plus, I'd take over all the costs of her care, which would save you money every month." The Wilsons looked at each other with greedy excitement. $5,000 was more money than they had seen in a long time. Plus, they would no longer have to feed Maya or provide her with a place to stay, while still keeping the government. Payments that came in Maya's name. "We need to see the money first," Mr. Wilson said suspiciously. "And we'd want this all done properly, with paperwork and everything." Linda had expected this. She pulled out a folder from her bag. "I brought a contract with me. It's all very standard, just transferring her work obligations from your household to mine. And I brought a cashier's check for the full amount." Maya appeared in the doorway behind the Wilsons, carrying a basket of laundry. When she saw Linda, her eyes showed confusion and fear. Maya had learned that any change in her routine usually meant something bad was about to happen. Linda's heart broke seeing Maya so thin and frightened, but she kept her expression businesslike. She couldn't show too much emotion, or the Wilsons might become suspicious of her real motives. "Maya," Mrs. Wilson called harshly, "this lady wants to hire you for her farm. You'll be going with her instead of staying here."
Yes.
Maya's face went pale. In her mind, she was being sold like an object from one owner to another. She had hoped that someday she might gain her freedom, but this felt like she was just moving from one prison to another. "Do I have a choice?" Maya asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Wilson laughed meanly. Choice? You don't get choices, girl. We've been taking care of you for 3 years, and now it's time for you to work somewhere else. Linda wanted to tell Maya the truth right then, but she knew she had to wait until they were safely away from the Wilsons. Instead, she looked directly at Maya and spoke gently. I promise you'll be treated fairly at my place. You'll have your own room, good food, and time to rest. Maya didn't believe her. In her experience, adults always made promises they didn't keep. But something in Linda's voice was different from the way the Wilsons spoke to her. There was kindness. There, even if Maya was afraid to hope, paperwork took an hour to complete. Linda had made sure everything looked official, even though the contract was really just a way to get Maya away from the Wilsons safely. She signed papers, handed over the check, and watched as the Wilsons greedily counted the money. She can pack her things and come with me today, Linda said, trying to keep her voice calm. Maya went to her small room and put her few belongings into a plastic bag. She didn't have much, just a few pieces of old clothing and a small photo of her parents that she had managed to keep hidden. As she packed, her hands were shaking. She didn't know what to expect from this new situation. When Maya came back with her bag, Linda felt angry seeing how little Maya owned after 3 years of hard work. But she smiled encouragingly and said, Are you ready to go? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice to speak. She followed Linda to a clean, comfortable car, something she hadn't ridden in for years. As they drove away from the Wilson property, Maya stared out the window, wondering if she would ever see that terrible place again. Linda glanced at Maya in the passenger seat and saw tears running down her face. Maya, she said softly, I need you to know something very important. You're not my employee. You're not my servant. You're free now, and I'm going to help you build the life you deserve. Maya looked at Linda with surprise and confusion, not yet able to believe that her nightmare might finally be over. Chat controls Sonnet 4. The drive to Linda's house felt like the longest journey of Maya's life. She sat quietly in the passenger seat, staring out the window, but not really seeing anything. Mind was spinning with questions and fears. What kind of work would she have to do? Would Linda be as cruel as the Wilsons? Would she have enough food to eat? When they pulled into Linda's driveway, Maya was surprised by what she saw. The house was warm and welcoming, with flowers growing in neat gardens and a porch swing that looked comfortable. It didn't look like the kind of place where someone would be treated badly. But Maya had learned not to trust first impressions. Linda parked the car and turned to face Maya. She could see the fear in the young woman's eyes and knew this was going to be a long, difficult process. Maya, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You are not here to work for me. You are here because you deserve to be safe and free. This is your home now, for as long as you want to stay. Maya looked at Linda with confusion. In her experience, adults didn't help people without wanting something in return. What do you mean? She asked quietly. Linda spoke slowly and gently. I mean, you don't owe me anything. You don't have to work to earn your keep. You can eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, and make choices about your own life. I know this is hard to believe right now, but it's true. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. She had learned that crying often made things worse. I don't understand. If I don't work, how will I pay for food and a place to sleep? Linda's heart broke hearing this question. Maya had been taught that her only value was in the work she could do. Sweet girl, you don't have to pay for anything. You're a human being, and you deserve care and kindness just because you exist, not because of what you can do for someone. Else Linda showed Maya to a bedroom that would be hers alone. It was bigger than the tiny room at the Wilsons, with a real bed, clean sheets, and a window with no bars. Maya stood in the doorway, afraid to enter. She had never had a space that was truly her own. This is really mine? Maya asked, her voice full of wonder. Yes, it's really yours. You can close the door whenever you want privacy. You can arrange the furniture however you like. You can even lock the door if it makes you feel safer. But I want you to know that no one will ever force their way in. Maya walked slowly into the room, touching the soft bedspread and looking out the window at the garden below. She couldn't remember ever having such a beautiful, peaceful space. The first few days were the hardest. Maya would wake up before dawn, expecting someone to shout at her to start working. When no one came, she would lie in bed feeling anxious and confused. She was so used to constant activity that she didn't know what to do with quiet time. Linda was patient and understanding. She would gently remind Maya that she could sleep as long as she wanted. When Maya insisted on doing chores, Linda explained that any help around the house should come from choice, not obligation. Eating was another challenge. Maya would take tiny portions of food, afraid there wouldn't be enough for everyone. She would eat quickly, as if someone might take her plate away. Linda had to constantly reassure her that there was plenty of food and that she could eat as much as she wanted. "Maya, you're much too thin," Linda said kindly during their first week together. "Your body needs proper nutrition to heal and get strong again. Please don't worry about eating too much." Maya looked down at her empty plate. "At the Wilsons," they said, "I was greedy if I asked for more food. They said I should be grateful for whatever they gave me." Linda felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "The Wilsons were wrong about many things. You were never greedy.
Were hungry because they weren't feeding you properly. That was their failing, not yours."
Slowly.
Maya began to trust that the food wouldn't disappear. She started eating larger portions and even asked for seconds.
Linda celebrated these small victories,
Else.
knowing that each healthy meal was helping Maya's body recover from years of poor nutrition. Learning to make choices was perhaps the most difficult part of Maya's healing. When Linda asked simple questions, like "What would you like for lunch?" or "Which TV show would you prefer to watch?" Maya would panic. She had been punished for expressing preferences for so long that she had forgotten she was allowed to have them. Linda introduced choices gradually. She would offer Maya two options instead of asking open-ended questions. "Would you like to wear the blue shirt or the green shirt today?" These simple decisions helped Maya remember that her opinions mattered. One evening, about a month after Maya's arrival, they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. Maya had been quiet for a long time, just enjoying the peaceful moment. "Linda," Maya said softly, "why did you help me? You don't even know." Linda thought about her answer carefully. "I helped you because I could see that you needed help, and I had the ability to provide it. But Maya, I want you to know that you're not a charity case. You're a bright, valuable person with so much to offer the world. I didn't save you. I just gave you the chance to save yourself." Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. For the first time since leaving the Wilsons, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, her life could be different. That night, Maya slept peacefully in her own bed, knowing that tomorrow would bring new possibilities instead of new fears. Chat Controls Sonnet 4. 2 years had passed since Linda first brought Maya home, and the transformation was incredible. The scared, thin young woman who once flinched at every sound had grown into a confident person with dreams and goals. Maya had gained healthy weight. Her hair was shiny and strong, and most importantly, her eyes sparkled with hope and determination. Maya was now enrolled in the local community college, studying to become a registered nurse. It had been her idea, inspired by Linda's kindness and her own desire to help people who were suffering. "I want to help others the way you helped me," Maya had told Linda when she first mentioned her dream of becoming a nurse. Getting into college hadn't been easy. Maya had to take several preparatory classes to make up for the education she had missed. Linda helped her study every evening, patiently working through math problems and reading assignments. Maya was a quick learner, hungry for knowledge. After years of being told she wasn't smart enough for school, Maya's first day of college was both exciting and terrifying. She had never been in a classroom with other students her age. She worried that everyone would know she was different, that they would somehow sense her difficult past. But Linda had encouraged her to focus on her future, not her history. Remember, Linda had said that morning, "You belong there just as much as anyone else. Your experiences have given you wisdom and strength that will make you an excellent nurse." Maya's favorite class was Introduction to Healthcare. She loved learning about how to care for people and make them feel better. Her professor, Mrs. Rodriguez, noticed Maya's enthusiasm and dedication right away. One day after class, Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Maya aside. I've been teaching for 15 years, she said. I rarely see a student with your level of compassion and determination. Have you considered specializing in trauma nursing? Maya's heart raced. She had never thought about specializing in anything. She was just grateful to be in school at all. What does a trauma nurse do? She asked. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. Trauma. Nurses work with people who have experienced serious physical or emotional injuries. They help patients heal, not just from their wounds, but from the psychological impact of their experiences. I think you might have a special gift for that kind of work. Maya thought about this conversation for weeks. She realized that her own experiences, as painful as they had been, could actually help her understand and care for other people who had suffered. Instead of being ashamed of her past, she began to see it as preparation for her future mission. Meanwhile, Linda had been working behind the scenes on something important. She had maintained contact with law enforcement about the Wilson family, providing them with documentation of Maya's situation. The investigation had been slow, but finally, authorities had enough evidence to take action. One morning, Linda sat Maya down for a serious conversation. Maya, I have something to tell you. The police want to talk to you about your time with the Wilsons. They're building a case against them, and your testimony could help prevent them from hurting other people. Maya felt her stomach drop. She had tried so hard to put those memories behind her. The thought of having to relive them, especially in front of strangers, was terrifying. Do I have to? Maya asked quietly. Linda took her hand gently. No, you don't have to do anything you're not ready for. But I want you to think about something. There might be other people right now living the way you used to live. Your courage could set them free. Maya spent several sleepless nights thinking about Linda's words. She thought about the fear she used to feel every day, the hunger, the loneliness. She imagined other young people experiencing those same feelings right now. Finally, she made her decision. I'll do it, Maya told Linda. If my story can help someone else, then it's worth telling. The day of Maya's testimony was one of the hardest days of her life. Standing in that courtroom, facing the Wilsons across the room, brought back all the old feelings of fear and powerlessness. But Linda was there, sitting in the front row. Giving Maya strength with her encouraging smile, Maya spoke clearly and truthfully about her experiences. She told the court about the long days of work without pay, the inadequate food, the locked room, and the constant fear. She also spoke about how the experience had affected her, how long it had taken to learn to trust people again. When she finished speaking, Maya felt something she had never felt before, proud of herself. She had faced her fears and spoken up for people who couldn't speak for themselves. The Wilson family was found guilty on multiple charges. More importantly, the investigation led to the discovery of 2 other young people in similar situations. They were rescued and connected with proper support services, just as Maya had hoped. 6 months later, Maya received a letter that changed her life. It was from one of the people who had been rescued because of her testimony. The letter simply said, "Thank you for being brave enough to tell your story. Because of you, I'm free now and starting college next fall. I want to be a teacher and help kids who need someone to believe in them." Maya cried when she read those words, but they were tears of joy. She realized that her painful past had become the foundation for a meaningful future. Maya graduated from nursing school with honors 2 years later. Linda watched proudly from the audience as Maya walked across the stage to receive her diploma. After the ceremony, Maya found Linda in the crowd and hugged her tightly. "None of this would have been possible without you," Maya whispered. Linda hugged her back and said, "I just opened the door, Maya. You're the one who had the courage to walk through it and build the beautiful life you deserve." Today, Maya works as a trauma nurse at the Regional Medical Center. She specializes in caring for people who have experienced difficult situations, and her colleagues often comment on her exceptional ability to connect with patients and help them. Healed Maya also volunteers with organizations that help survivors of human trafficking and forced labor. She speaks at conferences and schools, sharing her story to raise awareness and inspire others to watch out for people who need help. Linda and Maya remain close friends. They have dinner together every Sunday, and Maya often brings Linda flowers from her own garden, something she never thought she'd be able to have. Maya has her own apartment now, filled with books, plants, and photos of the life she's built. Sometimes Maya still wakes up in the middle of the night, remembering the old fears. But now, instead of feeling helpless, she gets up and writes in her journal or plans her next speaking engagement. She has learned that healing isn't forgetting the past, but using it to create a better future. Maya's story proves that with kindness, courage, and determination, even the darkest chapters of life can lead to the most beautiful endings.